Um, so thank you everyone for coming tonight and I'd like to welcome you to the Voices of Hope World Suicide Prevention Day panel. My name is Shauna and I work as a suicide prevention lead at the Canadian Mental Health Association in Nova Scotia division, and I'm going to be hosting you tonight. I'd first like to begin by acknowledging that we are in Mi'kma'ki, the ancestral territory of the Mi'kmaq people. This territory is covered by the treaties of peace and friendship, which the Mi'kmaq and Maliseet peoples first signed with the British in 1725. The treaties did not surrender the land, but were an established way for us to have an ongoing relationship between our nations. We are also in the province of Nova Scotia, which was settled and built by people of African ancestry in the 18th and 19th centuries. These people were formative in the building of our communities in meaningful ways and contributed to the development of Nova Scotia as we know it today. We must not forget that we are all treaty people. So before we introduce our panelists, I'd like to welcome Brian Comer, our Minister of the Office of Mental Health and Addictions. Welcome, Brian.
Thank you, Sheena, for having me, and thank you everyone for coming on this evening. It's a tremendous honor for me to be here, my first official function, I guess, as Minister of Mental Health and Addictions for the province of Nova Scotia. I'm very excited and very optimistic, I think, with what we can do together as a group, for sure, as we move forward. It's not going to be easy, and it's going to take a lot of hard work working together. I think as a cohesive unit as we can be at times. I'd like to thank our three panelists tonight too. I know it takes a great deal of courage to come forth and talk about your lived experience. But having a professional background myself, working in the field for many years, I truly think that people with lived experience is one of the most invaluable assets we have to explain journeys of recovery and to really get a sense of the issues that people go through, with mental health and addictions, in our province. In Nova Scotia, I know there's hundreds of families, if not more, directly impacted by suicide and suicide attempts that change families forever, right? Whether it be addiction issues and suicides and those sorts of things. So we've got some work to do for sure. I was very fortunate to work alongside Keith and Ryan with the CAST program in Cape Breton, a while back to kind of get a good sense of that program. Now that I'm on the other side of things, I think it's kind of exciting that we can do a lot of great things together with the Canadian Mental Health Association. And we got to keep at it, right? It's going to take a lot of hard work. We're post-pandemic. It's going to be tough, right? But we're going to work together. We're going to get some things done. And I think we're finally going to place a priority on mental health that it deserves, from an access standpoint, from equity, and right across the province, right? So I'm very excited to be here. I'd like to thank everyone for their hard work and commitment, for mental health and addictions, across the province. And I'm really looking forward to hearing from the panelists tonight. And thank you very much for being here.
Great. Thank you, Brian. So as you probably heard at the very beginning, we are recording tonight. We had several people inquire about whether we would be recording the session because they weren't actually able to make it tonight themselves. And so we did say that we would record it. So with that being said, people can have their cameras on or off as you choose. And if it helps your bandwidth to have it off, then turn it off. And if you'd like to have it on, by all means, have it on. During the session, the mics are going to be silenced, though. We're going to have them on mute. And if you have any questions for the panelists or anything that you want to discuss, just put it in the chat box there, and Aaron will be monitoring that chat box for us and collecting any questions you might have that will then use at the end of the panel discussions. The questions that we've already had planned for our panelists, we'll then introduce your questions to them and have those discussions there. And because today's panel is going to be talking about their own lived experiences around suicidal ideations and their road to recovery, our focus is around providing hope and healing. However, it is a sensitive topic. So being mindful of that, we have our colleague Sally Tucker here. Sally, you want to give a little wave? Thank you, Sally. She works with us at CMHA-Nova Scotia, and she's in the process of completing her master's degree in counseling psychology. And she's going to be supported by Dr. S. Spencer, who is a registered psychologist. So if at any point you're not feeling well or feeling that you need some more support during this session, you can use the chat box to reach out to Erin. Just click on the chat. At the bottom there, you can see a drop-down menu there where you would change everyone to just choose Erin. Let her know that you want to talk to Sally, and then Erin will direct you to a private breakout room, and she'll direct Sally to that breakout room, and you can then have the conversation you need to have. As well, we're also going to provide some toll-free numbers. So Erin, if you could just pop up that slide for us. We have two numbers that you can call. One is the Crisis Service of Canada. So that's 1-833-456-4566. Or there's the Nova Scotia Mental Health Addictions Crisis Line, which is 1-888-429-8167. And they provide crisis intervention for children, youth, and adults experiencing any kind of mental health crises or mental stress. This service is available for 24 hours, 7 days a week. So if after the sessions tonight, you're not feeling well and need support, those numbers are available to call, and they will help you if you're presenting with suicidal thoughts, self-harming thoughts, behaviors, overwhelming anxiety, difficulty coping with stress, psychotic or distorted thinking, depression, substance use difficulties, or anything else that's self-identified as a mental health concern. And it's you that identifies that. So if you're feeling the need, then please call those numbers and reach out for help. Those crisis lines are also available to support families, friends, community agencies, and others to manage mental health crises. So this Friday, September 10th, is World Suicide Prevention Day, which is recognized annually by the World Health Organization. It's an opportunity to create awareness and foster understanding about the impact of suicide that happens for the people that we love, how suicide impacts our communities, and the world that we live in overall. So our panel tonight is going to share their insights about the lived experiences that they have had, which is extremely valuable in understanding how we can further prevent suicide in the planning and treatment and education around suicide prevention. They all belong to a great online community called Worth Living, which I'm sure will come up in our conversation today. And they've also all recently contributed to a book called Life Worth Living, a mental health anthology. And we'll share how to get connected with the group, as well as if you're interested in further reading the book, then how you can go about that at the end of tonight. And so tonight they have courageously agreed to share the stories with us and help spread the message that recovery is possible. So thank you everybody for being here tonight. So that is the most that I'm planning on talking tonight, because the true heroes today, the true people you come to listen to are our guests tonight. So I'm going to ask each person to introduce themselves, starting with Keith. Keith, can you let us know a little bit about yourself?
Okay, certainly. Yeah, thank you, Shauna. Okay, and good evening, everybody. Before I introduce myself, I'd like to acknowledge and thank Shauna and Erin for their hard work on this initiative, for sure. Okay, I know they spent a lot of time on it. Okay, I did a little bit, honestly. Okay, they did, the bulk, the heavy lifting. Okay, and a big thank you to Erin as well for this was her idea. Okay, to do an event for World Suicide Prevention Day. Okay, so spot on, Erin. Okay, so thanks to the two of you for sure. Okay, a bit about myself. I live in Sydney. I'm a lawyer. I had depression. My father died on February 23rd of 1992, age 59. My mother was a widow, age 53. I was 31. Okay, it changed my everyday life, his death. Okay, and that started my slide into the darkness of depression. Okay, so for many years, I thought I had a horrible, miserable life. Okay, I did not recognize it as depression. Okay, I mean, we're going back a number of years now. Okay, when mental health challenges were not discussed in public and in much capacity at all. Okay, like especially given what we're doing tonight and other events that we've done. So it took some time. Okay, to creep in. Okay, I was diagnosed on a Friday morning by my family doctor. Okay, March 7th of 2003. I remember well. I spent half an hour with my family doctor, which is a long session with my doctor. On March 11th, a Tuesday evening at my sister's house in Halifax, I had a mental breakdown. My life came undone. Okay, I had no idea what was happening. Okay, we then learned about depression. And you mentioned, okay, Sean, a bit about healing. Okay, yeah, I mean, I healed. It took years. Okay, weekly therapy. Incredible family, 2 friends and myself. I worked hard at getting healthy. Okay, so that was sort of, a thumbnail sketch of my illness. Okay, I first went public with my depression. Okay, in February of 2008. I published an article in the National Post newspaper, how it turned into a life worth living. So I did worth living has been with me from day one, okay, of my journey. I then took that, okay, and sent it to CMHA, not knowing really what CMHA was, okay. It's all new to me at that time, okay. The director at the time, Carol Touton, emailed back and said, let's talk, okay. She invited me to join some committees. Okay, I had not done anything in like 6-7 years. Okay, she asked me to speak at the national convention, okay, national conference in August of that year, in 2008, in Dartmouth. Again, I'd not been in public much in years. Okay, so for me to walk into a conference with hundreds of people was overwhelming, exciting. Okay, so a few years later, I was offered a position to work at CMHA for a couple of years. Okay, incredible. I'd not worked for 8 years. Okay, so for somebody to offer me a position, okay, a paying position was phenomenal. Okay, somebody thought I was worthy enough to have a position, okay, and a name and a business card, okay, was incredible, And I returned to CMHA in 2019 to plan some conferences. And we're all set to go. One in Halifax, one in the city. We had gotten some funding for it, okay, and then we all know COVID kicked in, right? So that kind of changed my role there, okay? So CMHA-Nova Scotia has been a special place for me, okay? It's been part of my journey to recovery. So it's kind of wonderful that we're all here this evening, okay? And I can share that with you. That's a bit about me, I think. I think that's probably enough about me. So hey, I'll turn it back to you, Sean.
Perfect. Thanks, Keith. And thank you for the acknowledgements, but I think this is the real work that's happening tonight. So I appreciate you being here. Haley, can you introduce yourself to us, please?
Yes, hello. My name is Haley Tiffany. I'm very excited to be here, especially because I'm probably one of the only ones here from the United States. I'm 23 years old. My pronouns are she, her. So I was born and raised in Connecticut. I'm a social work graduate of Simmons University in Boston, Massachusetts. I've been writing, I say professionally, I don't get paid for it, but I've been a part of different magazines and mainly mental health blogs since I was about 17 years old. And it's been an amazing outlet for me to share my story and connect with new people. Writing has been a big part in helping me cope in dealing with anxiety, depression. I have post-traumatic stress disorder that was diagnosed when I was 19. Among chronic health conditions like a heart condition and endometriosis. And I'm very lucky that I've had my writing featured in places like Mind Body Green, The Mighty, Teen Vogue, and I also had connected with Worth Living probably within the end of my high school experience and the start of my freshman year of college, and in addition to being a part of the new Worth Living book. So that has been the highlight of my year. And I do have my own blog. It's called Very Haley, though I have taken a break from it so I could work on different writing projects. But aside from writing, I'm very passionate about mental health awareness and suicide prevention, and also supporting youth in schools is a big reason why I wanted to go into social work. And I hold on to the hope that by sharing my story, I will be able to inspire others to either write, to express themselves, and have a positive outlet in their healing journey. So yeah, I think that's mainly about me, but thank you so much. I'm really happy to be here.
Thank you, Haley. That was wonderful. And Ryan, let's hear from you.
Okay, my name is Ryan Gould, and I'm Mi'kmaq from the community of Member 2, born and raised. I'm the father of 6 beautiful daughters. I'm the apprenticeship coordinator for the Mi'kmaq Economic Benefits Office here in Member 2, which is a job I took about 2 years ago. So I support and mentor Indigenous tradespeople along their pathway to certification, just making sure they receive all the supports and services, math tutoring services, Mi'kmaq language translation, and keep them up to date with their skilled training and their courses, and also getting their resumes out in the community to make sure that they can obtain employment with all the development going on in Nova Scotia, which I think is huge for mental health and finding that sense of purpose and dignity, which it was for me. So I'm very passionate about that role. I'm the owner and operator of Rusty Pipes Plumbing and Heating, which is a plumbing and heating company in my community. So I do service work in the community. I get to see a lot of familiar faces each day. I love it. And I get to interact with a lot of elders in the process and kind of redo their bathrooms and make their homes and their lives much easier to get around. And yeah, and just to interact with them is a blessing. I'm also Atlantic Trades Business Seal certified, and I'm a level 3 steam fitter, pipe fitter. So I've been around the trades for pretty much my whole life, but I've been a journeyman plumber for about 12 years now. I'm also the president of the Member 2 Men's Society, which is a nonprofit organization here in our community, but we provide support and services to anyone in the surrounding area as well. So pretty much to Sydney or Cape Breton. This is a group that, again, we support men of all ages. We like to try to create an environment where it's safe for men to come and express the issues that they face each day, or certain family issues, dealing with family courts, and just really supporting them in any way that they need it. But I guess our most important, the most important thing about our group is just having the door open. So we meet every 2 weeks in the community, and we just have the door open to anyone to come and have a bite to eat. And if they want to share experiences, great. But if not, they can just kind of, listen to the stories that we have to share. And we also like to not only get well and to heal and support each other, but we like to plan charitable fundraisers in our community, which I find gives our group a strong sense of purpose and fulfilling that role in our culture as Indigenous men, Mi'kmaq men. And we're also able to complete that circle. So we've always had support for elders and for children and women in our community, but there was never anything for the men. So I believe that a family can only be as healthy as every individual in the family, and all roles are receiving support. So, we could have houses that were strong and supportive for the elders and the women and children. But if we had men struggling and weren't really able to voice the issues they were going through, then it just eventually catches up to us, and then sooner or later the family. So yeah, we wanted to end the stigma of how people struggling with issues such as addictions, mental health, and grief are treated. We wanted to open the door for anyone at all, whatever circumstances they're in, and take it from there. We're not professionals, and none of us are registered therapists or psychologists, but we do have a strong network of support. And my journey through recovery began about 4 years ago. I had lost my 4 daughters at the time to child services because of an alcohol and cocaine addiction. So in the process of getting a hold of my addiction, I became to learn of my traumas and the lifestyle that I lived, and I was able to get a hold of that. So now I'm all about providing the tools to help save other men and to show them, I guess, light in such a dark place. And I hope to inspire others in other communities, not only First Nations communities, but in any community in general. And hopefully I can just share my story and inspire other men to start other groups. It seems to be catching on as well. I think there's groups in Eskasoni, Millbrook, Indian Brook, and Wagoba. So it's slowly catching on. And, I'm for in October, I'll be 4 years sober, and I live with all my daughters now. We're all doing very well. Our relationship's amazing. And I've met all kinds of amazing people along this journey of finding support, not only for myself, but for all men in our community. I've crossed paths with Brian here, Brian Comer, Keith Anderson, and it's just been a matter of meeting the right people at the right time along this journey. And to me, those are signs from the Creator or from a higher power that I'm on this right path, and that I have to keep sharing my story, and in return, I'll receive these rewards. So I'm also on the board for the Three Brothers Project, which is another support group for the men in our community. I was part of the Worth Living team, which was an amazing experience, and kind of dabbled with my writing skills, and I was fortunate enough to have that opportunity. And again, yeah, it's just been such an amazing journey. I want to thank you all for being patient and giving me this time to share some of my story. And I just really hope that somebody out there hears this message and can gain something, a message of hope from tonight. So thank you.
Rick, thank you, Ryan. Yes, and I think that's having read many of the stories from the book, and just hearing you just introducing yourselves right now, that there's a piece of what you have to share. People can really, there's going to connect with different people in different ways, and so I'm really excited to hear more about your stories tonight and share those stories with everyone. So I thought we could first start out, so we've planned out some questions, and the questions kind of come from the idea that even though everyone does have a different story, there's some commonalities in our experiences, and we're hoping to provide hope to others. And although we don't know everybody who's in this space right now, I'm sure that there are people who have people in their lives that they're concerned about, that they're worried about, and are hoping to support and learn from this experience. So let's celebrate the fact that you are here to share your stories with us. And so my first question is, what have your experiences taught you about yourself and about life? Haley, do you want to start?
Yes, absolutely. Thank you. So in order for me to talk about my experiences and what they taught me, I do have to address the not so pretty parts in my journey in order to share how those shaped me. I've struggled with both physical and mental health conditions, so my experiences have mainly taught me how to advocate for myself. I always struggled with how to get help, and I definitely had trouble asking for it. I was almost 17 when I started experiencing panic attacks and PTSD symptoms, and it first occurred in the one place which I'd say I never wanted to be vulnerable, which was the classroom at school. And at the time, I had very little understanding about mental health, and I blamed myself for why I could not feel well enough to leave the house or sit through a full class period. So my household growing up was not healthy, but secrets and I say my family's ability to put glitter on dirt were kind of led to me to grow up naive, but in a way it did protect me in my childhood. I grew up with a parent who battled addiction, and I didn't really know it to be that until I was 14. And I grew up in a home with abuse in multiple forms, but because it was my family, I definitely grew up thinking that that was our normal. And it's weird and also interesting how PTSD happens, because I always had trauma from a very young age, but it took months after my parents, I say, finally got a divorce, before I started to, I say like my body kind of was in catch up and left survival mode, and that was when it really started to impact me. What didn't help was that I also have a heart condition, and I didn't know what at the time was my physical health or my mental health. I had a lot of like heart racing symptoms, full body shakes, and I would have a lot of dizziness just at my school desk. it was actually easier, I say, to think at the time that it was my heart, because I think that I felt like if it really just was bad anxiety, then if blaming it on my heart, I guess, made it seem like it wasn't my fault. But I very much attached my mental health to being something that I should be able to just control. My earliest part in my journey, which really is the most like special part to me, is that I had a great connection with my high school social worker. And she actually led me to rediscover my love for writing, which I always thought was easier for me to express myself. I just sit there and say, I don't know, if I tried to express my feelings verbally, but given a pen and paper or keyboard, I was able to do it with ease. And she gave me the idea of starting a blog. And at the time it was anonymous, and she was very much my only reader. But I would get to school in the morning and would receive an email from her giving me some feedback on some of my posts. And I remember that one of the things that she had said to me was that she was getting to know the real me through my writing. And she had told me that I was intelligent and intuitive, especially given my age. And I think for somebody who has always been very hard on herself and feeling like I'm not smart enough, good enough, whatever enough, to see that in an email really shaped me to have more hope, I guess, for myself, despite everything that I was struggling with. I think though I still had like more hope for myself, there were a lot of things that I still struggled with. And I was still very mad at my body every single day for just not feeling well. I would catch myself thinking like, I want to sleep forever or disappear for a while, until one day I was on the internet searching suicidal thoughts, statistics, and ways to end my life. And I ended up being hospitalized a few months before my high school graduation. And it scared me, but it woke me up also, in the sense that I just wanted to get better. And I think for me, I just realized no matter what it would take, I just wanted to try and get better, so I didn't end up in that same place again. And I tried a few therapists before I found one who was the right fit for me. I started to see purpose in my life, and around that time was when I really like knew that I wanted to pursue social work or be in a very similar role that my school social worker had been for me, and be on the other end of like receiving help and truly like knowing that I understand what that feels like. By my freshman year of undergrad, so I did get accepted to college. So I graduated high school and went on to study social work. I was much more confident about who I am and tried to use my story in a way that could educate and help others in their own mental health journey. And I knew I wasn't the only one that was dealing with the things that I was dealing with. And I tried to just remind myself that. And I guess I learned that despite everything I had been through, the one thing that was really holding me back was that I needed to just believe in myself. And it's still very much a work in progress. But I haven't given up on writing. I'm actually still in touch with my high school social worker. I told her that I was doing this panel, and she purchased the Worth Living book. So that was just very meaningful for me that she has still like stayed connected with me. And I no longer shame myself for like needing therapy or taking medication. I've mainly learned to see the good in what makes me me, and I guess realizing that being strong was never really a choice, but that my resiliency was something that like something to admire. I've also learned that all of my stuff or diagnoses don't take up all of me, like not even close. And there's so much in my life that I feel I have not had control over. But one of the things that I think is the main thing that I take from this and how my experiences have shaped me is that in life we do have control over where we go from here.
That's great, Haley. Yeah. See, and your social worker is such a huge influence on your road to recovery, and having that support person there and believing you to get you to a point to believe in yourself. Yeah, it's amazing. Keith, how about you? What have you learned from this experience?
An awful lot. Okay. I go back to, there are many turning points in my journey for sure. Okay. But I mentioned one earlier there. Okay. When I had my breakdown in March of 2003. Devastated. Did not know what was happening. Didn't understand it. Okay. I mean, just a complete loss. You know, on Friday, I've been practicing law at a very high level. Okay. At my firm. You know, 5 days later, I'm collapsed in bed in Halifax at my sister's house, like, and just collapsed. Okay, nothing working. Okay, and the breakdown, it took me out of a very unhealthy work environment. I was working 60 to 70 hours a week. As a lawyer, that's what you did. Okay, that's just part of the role. Okay, enjoyed it immensely. Okay. You know, a very busy firm, and you know, we had a great time doing it until the last few years. It took me out of that environment, okay, and it placed me in one that was brand new to me, okay, so the breakdown was a very good thing to happen to me. It saved me. Okay, I wouldn't be here tonight but for that. Okay, as Haley mentioned, you know, we're looking up, you know, ways to die by suicide. Okay, I did not do that, but I purchased a house on a lake outside Sydney here. Okay, no neighbors, a kilometer off the road through the woods. Okay, and you come into this huge property. Okay, house. Okay, yeah, no neighbors for kilometers. Okay, and there were many nights. I bought it to hide from the world. Okay. And this feeling I wanted to hide and be away and be isolated. Okay. And just understand what was happening. Okay. And I just, yeah, you know, so many nights I didn't think I'd make it through the night. Okay. So the breakdown, again, took me out of that unhealthy place. Okay. And I was fortunate to have the breakdown at my sister's house in Halifax. And then my whole family was there, and we got all kind of figure out what to do. Okay. And none of us knew. Okay. I was fortunate to get an incredible psychologist. Okay. Weekly visits for a couple of years, and then a monthly for a couple of years after that. Helped immensely in my recovery. What I've learned, okay, a couple of things to celebrate. I used to go to therapy, and my therapist, okay, Dr. Birch, was on Robie Street, just around the corner from the law school. So it's kind of familiar turf, okay, a bit, you know, which I think helped, okay. So my mother and I would go into therapy from Waverly, where my sister was, and we'd drive into the city. And we'd, you know, I'd go to therapy. My mom would come just in case it wasn't a good session, and then most were, but on occasion they weren't. And we would go for lunch after my therapy. Okay, and guys, when we would celebrate my therapy, we'd go for lunch. Okay, and we pick a restaurant. I've been to every restaurant in Halifax. Okay, in Dartmouth at that time. Okay, we tried them all, and some became favorites. Okay, the Italian Market in the North End. Okay, super special place for me. Okay, great food, great staff at the time. They got to know us. Okay, it was familiar and friendly. The best desserts in Halifax. Okay, in my opinion. Okay, Jim's Pizza on Bedford Highway, the best fried clams. Okay, the Chicken Burger in Bedford, the best milkshakes. Okay, but that was part of my recovery. Okay, going to these places. Okay, and enjoying good food and celebrating a good therapy session. Okay, so I've come to learn to celebrate things that in the past I probably would not have. Okay. And for years, what with my depression creeping in, food was just food. I didn't enjoy it. I just ate whatever was there. Okay. So now all of a sudden I was enjoying things. Okay. And I was celebrating, Bud the Spud in the summertime, okay, in Spring Garden Road. I mean, all these, you know, and I get chills just thinking about it still because they were special. They're significant, okay, in my recovery. So I celebrate now. Another thing is gratitude. Kind of a new concept for me, okay. I'm grateful every day, okay, that I'm still here. The water serves two purposes. It's water, it's you know, but when I get emotional, it gives me that moment to sort of collect myself, okay? And then this is deep stuff, okay? So I do get emotional sometimes. I'm good, I'm okay. Don't concern yourself, okay? But it's so deep and personal. So gratitude, yeah, I'm thankful I'm still here. Okay, I'm grateful I'm here tonight with all of you. Okay, these are special moments. Okay, I had a good friend of mine that I met through a group that I had volunteered with, okay, Bring Change to Mind. And she was, you know, depression. I'm not talking out of school. I mean, she's quite public with her journey as well, okay? She had this expression, a pocket of joy. Okay, her life was such a struggle. If she got a pocket of joy in the course of a day, it could be 5 minutes, it could be an hour, it could be the whole weekend, the whole day. Okay, but it was a pocket of joy that she would grab onto. Okay, so when I talk about celebration, that's what she did. You know, these pockets of joy were so important to her. Okay, and that's, you know, that's gratitude. Okay, you know, we can get that special moment. You spoke about hope and healing. Okay, I had no hope for years. My life was just miserable, horrible. Okay, I had an incredible girlfriend. Partner back then at the time, okay. Through my depression, that relationship pretty much went away, okay. It still hurts. 20 years later, she was still the special one, okay. She was the star, okay. So, you know, regrets, definitely. Okay, I'm not one to say, yeah, hey, the journey was great. Okay, no, not at all. It was a challenge, okay. And I lost certain things, certain aspects of my life, okay. You know, and I can speak about this girlfriend because she has given me permission to do so. Okay. And she was a star. Okay. Yeah, I still miss her, no question. Okay. And she's in the book. I make reference to her in the book, actually. Okay. I thought, you know, I wanted to kind of, you know, we've all had relationships, good, bad, and different. Okay. We connect when we talk about relationships, okay, and we've lost, you know, some, okay, and that was the one that I lost. That still is has an impact, you know. She's doing incredibly well, okay, which is wonderful to see. I did make an attempt at one point, okay, when it's healthy, but I'm still single, so that didn't go anywhere. But yeah, I mean, that's what I've learned, okay, to celebrate. Okay, and you know, to celebrate her, and she's doing so well now. I'm so happy for her. Okay, yeah, you know, or to celebrate, you know, a nice walk. Okay, to celebrate again, like all of you here tonight. Okay, to be grateful for that. You know, we went to COVID-19 protocols, and we had Zoom meetings. Okay, for 6 months, I worked by myself pretty much. Okay, and all of a sudden, every morning we have a staff meeting with CMHA. And I had colleagues, I had like a dozen people every morning, okay, pop up, okay. It was wonderful. Everyone else going, oh man, I don't want to work from home. I worked from home for years. But I had colleagues surface who joined me every morning. It was wonderful. Okay, so that's why I say like, tonight here now. It's, you know, I appreciate everybody, you know, attending, taking the time, and being part of my life. So I'll let it go. Okay. Thanks, Sean.
Thank you, Keith. Thank you. Yeah. And as you were talking about celebrating after some of your sessions, that I was reminded when I read about Haley's story and how difficult you had found it, Haley, to do therapy at the beginning and finding the right person. So important to celebrate, you know, those little milestones, those little wins in life. And that also what's coming to mind is that sense of identity where, Haley, you were young when you first were feeling suicidal. And Keith, you were a little bit older and had an established career as a lawyer. So Haley, you were just in the process of developing your identity of who you are as a person, and that, and how much it was centered around your own physical body and its limitations. And Keith, having to adjust your sense of identity as a lawyer to now not practicing and being in a new place. So Ryan, how does this sit for you? It's like, what has your journey taught you about yourself and life?
Like the others, it has taught me a lot. And, you know, not all at once. It just kind of came at different different phases, I guess. And that's kind of keeping me in line now and keep me on this journey, is because these gifts keep coming and these people keep coming into my life at the time when it's meant to be. And I'm so glad that I made that decision to first reach out. So that's one of the first things I learned, was to actually reach out. And I've learned so much from that. Like, I learned a lot about my addictions, about why I relapsed, about how to strengthen my relationships with my daughters. I learned how to understand addictions more. I learned to understand emotions and mental health more. I learned of a lot of supports in that were here in the area that were just overlooked and not being accessed, because men just, they probably haven't even known that they weren't well. And we just learned to kind of muscle through and to self-medicate. So it was all part of reach and go. And it was being in that broken spot of my life, that broken time, as Keith mentioned, and Haley, and mine was, you know, like there's lots of, there's talks now of the residential school and the young children that were discovered, or you know, recovered, we should say, and you know, that feeling of losing children and not being able to see them for a long time, if ever, was so devastating. That was my ultimate bottom, my rock bottom. I've been in a lot of sketchy situations, and I've been in a lot of low areas, again, like Keith, with breakups and stuff like that, in relationships that didn't pan out. But that there was my ultimate low. And that was one thing that I promised myself as a father, that I would always be there for my daughters no matter what. And to not be able to be there, and because of my own addictions and my own life's choices, really hurt me, to the point where I wanted to fix that. And I felt that I owed it to myself to get the proper help and supports that I needed. I felt that deep down, I had more of a purpose in life, that this didn't define me. This was just a situation that, you know, I knew I could get out of if I worked really hard. In the process of doing so, you know, I didn't even get it the first time round. I made a lot of changes. I was fortunate enough to have my daughters back in my life, but I thought that I could experiment with alcohol a bit more and just kind of do it on the weekends. So I was still trying to maintain both lifestyles. And that only lasted for so long before it caught up to me again. And I think that was even more devastating, was knowing that I reached out, knowing that I let the family know I had a problem, knowing that I had everybody's support cheering for me, and that here I am again with my daughters being taken away, after promising myself I would never do this again. Like, and how could I even do it the first time? So that was a very pinnacle moment in my life, because I had two choices. Either this fathering thing and parenting just isn't for me, and maybe I should stick with this lifestyle that I'm living now. It's working, I'm functioning, you know, my daughters may deserve better. Or I can just, you know, get back on my horse, use the supports and services that I've already accessed, and reach back out to them, and just keep putting in more work. And that was the path that I chose, was to, I wanted to not only understand addictions and choices and patterns and behaviors, but I wanted to understand, why do I keep engaging? What draws me to keep relapsing, to going into that reckless environment and with those addictions? And it comes back to, I guess, a form of self-harm. So never having anywhere to reach out or to like with family members, and just the upbringing that I had, that was another thing that I had to learn with my second time round in recovery was my upbringing and the home that I was raised in, which was not a very healthy environment at all for anyone to be raised in. But I had to learn about that. I had to learn about where the hurt initially started and where, how far back it went. And you know, when did I first start seeing trauma and these experiences? So that's what I did. I went to the Addictions Day program, and that's what they taught me. And that was able to give me tools to understand even further why I was making these decisions. So I grew up in a home that had a lot of domestic violence, a lot of drug and alcohol abuse, pills and stuff, a lot of violence. I grew up with a stepfather that was really hard on me, up until the point where I was 15 and I had to move out to prevent me from either. I knew that somebody was going to lose their life. I knew that it was either going to be him by me taking his life or me taking my own life. But I knew that the chaos and this abuse had to stop. It was getting more physical and I didn't feel safe anymore. And that's when I made the decision to leave my family for good. But the patterns and the behaviors that I've adopted were the role of playing the hero. So my whole life, I was always trying to to do well and to be in on time and make it home for supper and to, not upsetting my younger brother. And then when it came to sports teams, I was always pushing myself to make that Pee Wee AAA team, the Bantam AAA team. Then when it came to academics, I was always, trying to push for that 85 average, 90 average. I was on the silver honor roll and the gold honor roll throughout my junior high career. And at the end of the day, it didn't matter what sports team I made. It didn't matter what mark I brought home to hang on the fridge or what the report card said. It just wasn't enough to ever change the situation. It was on their end, the addictions and the traumas. So I developed a good work ethic because of it. But I also learned my limits, and I also learned that like I said, to reach out and to understand my gifts and my talents, I guess, if you will. So I had to learn to harness that work ethic and to use it productively, and to not to keep from entering reckless relationships too, and abusive and toxic relationships. I think that was one of my biggest things was you don't even know what's happening, but it has such a huge influence in your upbringing. And so yeah, once I was able to understand my upbringing, and the Addictions Day program taught me about like fear, and that fear is a similar emotion to excitement. So that often if you're fearful of things, you can maybe be excited. So I started to learn to take healthier risks. I always had negative thinking. I always just, I counted myself out. I never really pushed myself to, I don't know, achieve my goals, or I never really did anything for me. So throughout my recovery, that was when I developed the courage to start a group for men. And because I was trying to get my daughters back, I learned of the lack of support for men and for single fathers. And that was another stigma that I wanted to break, was that, the children are always better off with their mother. We didn't have that option. My daughter's mother was in a very bad spot in life. And so I was the only one putting in the work, but I had the system working against me because of the lack of support. So when I did make it through, and when I seen all of this, another thing I developed too with just my upbringing was I've always stood up to bullies or situations that I felt were unfair, kind of like advocating, I guess. So seeing all this lack of support, I was taking notes, and I was trying to think of ways to create a better support for single fathers or men dealing with family courts, men speaking about their emotions. And that was when I created the Member 2 Men's Society. And it was just, you know, it really started out to be a shoulder to cry on. And when I made that call into the community, there was right off the bat, there was 3 or 4 other men saying, finally, like, the time is now, it's here. Like, I've been waiting for years for something like this to happen for the men in our community. So I'm with you, and how can I help? How are we going to do this? Like, and that was when it all started 4 years ago. We just started bouncing ideas off of each other. And like, first and foremost, we support any new people coming in, or that want to express their emotions or share life experiences. And then if nobody has anything to share, that's when we get to planning charitable events, also cultural events. So we want to preserve our culture and our language, and to really find our purpose, our identity, and fulfill our role in our culture as mentors, so that we can raise healthier young men, and that they can take care of the women in their lives. And that's what I believe. I believe we're answering the prayers of our ancestors, and by recovering and healing, and getting the love and support that we deserve. By self-harming and numbing out from all the breakups and the relationships, and losing my daughters, and losing, you know, I lost pretty much all of my close childhood friends and family to murder, overdose, and suicide. So I really had to, like, you know, I wanted to change that, and I wanted something different. I wanted, I guess, support for men in the community. I didn't want to bury another brother, and I wanted to see more men fulfill their purpose and be in their children's lives. So